A warm welcome from the ECA, that's the European Crafts Alliance. So as Fadia mentioned, we are also partners on the MakerTech project. We're very happy to have you all with us today. So I'm the programs manager at the ECA, and it's a pleasure to be your host today for the community call, which is Crafting Connected Communities. And we're very happy to have three exciting guests with us here today who'll be presenting the incredible work that they're doing. So whether you're joining us as a craft practitioner or maybe a librarian or a maker or an organizer, or maybe someone who's just interested in how creativity can strengthen your own community, we're really happy to have you join the conversation. And as Fadia says, please feel free to add things to the chat, and we'll have some Q&A afterwards, after the presentations, and let's try to keep the conversation flowing. So the call today is not just about craft, it's really about the role that making can play in society. So in a world that is facing many environmental challenges and social fragmentation, a lot of isolation, there's a lot of growing recognition that the act of making together creates much more than just objects. It creates relationships, it builds trust, it preserves knowledge, and perhaps most importantly, it helps communities imagine and build different futures. So craft has always been more about, it's more than just technical skills. So throughout history, it's been a way of passing knowledge between generations and expressing identity or responding to local needs and bringing people together around shared purpose. So today, I'm sure we'd agree that these qualities are becoming increasingly important as communities search for more sustainable and inclusive and resilient ways of living. The speakers on our program today each offer a different perspective on this idea. Their work demonstrates how craft and making and shared spaces can become powerful tools for social inclusion, also cultural heritage, environmental responsibility, and community resilience. And of course, as Fadia mentioned, the discussion also sits at the heart of the MakerTech project. So for those of you that don't know already, MakerTech is exploring how public libraries can evolve into open and accessible makerspaces where people come together to learn and repair and create and collaborate. And by combining heritage crafts with contemporary maker practices and digital tools, the project it aims to support circular economies while strengthening local communities and at the same time preserving valuable knowledge. So our community calls are designed to support this, not just through theory, but learning from inspiring initiatives, such as the ones we'll hear from today, which are already creating meaningful change. So we'll be looking at this through three connected lenses. Firstly, that of people. So how making creates belonging and inclusion. Secondly, of place. So how spaces shape community and identity. And thirdly, we'll be looking at resources. So how sharing skills and tools and knowledge enables more circular and collaborative futures. So rather than presenting one model, today's speakers will share their diverse examples and invite us all to reflect on what community means in these different kinds of contexts. So without further ado, I'm very happy to introduce our first speaker on the program today. It is Sole Crispy. Sole is the project coordinator and fundraising officer from Habibi.Works, which is an intercultural makerspace and platform based in Katsikas in northern Greece. Habibi.Works brings together a community of people on the move, local residents and international volunteers in a shared environment where people collaborate on practical maker-based skills while also building relationships across a variety of cultures and experiences. Their work reminds us especially that making can become a common language, so one that creates dignity, confidence, and belonging, even among people whose experiences may be very different. So please welcome me in joining Sole from Habibi.Works. Sole, you can just share your screen when you're ready, and just unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you, Rachel. Thank you for the introduction. I will just share the screen. Okay. Okay, you can just tell me if you see it so that we can start. Should be.
Yes, we see it. Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Rachel, for the introduction. Thank you very much also for the invite. As previously mentioned, I'm Sole. I'm project coordinator and fundraising officer here in Habibi.Works. So for those who are not maybe familiar with Habibi.Works, as Rachel said, we are in northwest of Greece, in Katsikas. and we are one of the first makerspace in Europe. So basically, Habibi.Works is a project that came from the original German organization, Soup and Socks, that was established in 2016 here in Katsikas refugee camp. Of course, all the dynamics and the refugee laws unfortunately changed. So right now we're not inside the camp anymore. We are literally outside, but still, of course, we work with people on the move constantly. So before going through a virtual walking in our space, I would like to highlight some of our values that are really fundamental for us in order also to understand how we work with people. So first of all, everyone, and I'm talking about both community members and team members, we try to be solution oriented, meaning that everyone is part of finding a solution to different challenges. But of course, everyone needs to be aware of our limited capacity and sometimes limited resources. So we really try to push this solution-oriented approach. Secondly is solidarity. Actually, solidarity is the core of our structure because when we talk about solidarity, we do not involve at any level pity, of course. And solidarity for us means that, and we will see even later, we consider everyone the same. So of course, I consider everyone in this space as an agent of their own life. And so this is our take on respect and on accountability. This also goes together with working at an high level. This specifically applies with our working areas that I will talk about later, meaning that even though the working area are maybe led by some expert or supervisor, we think that everyone that comes here is an agent and know what best for him, so, or her, of course. So the person that arrives here has some needs, has some challenges, but only him or her knows what's best, what do they need. So we can provide the space, we can provide the tools, but still we're working always at a high level. Of course, nothing of this structure could go without trust. So trust is also our basic value. And of course, to protect it and to ensure it, we continue giving fairness and transparency. And as I was saying before, all these values are reciprocal amongst the community member, amongst the team member, and reciprocal from community and team member all the time. So this is a brief explanation of Habibi.Works space. So we have both working areas that are wood workshops, sewing atelier, and bicycle workshops. We also have community spaces like community kitchen, community garden, a gym that is open every day, all day, and of course everything is free and open for all the community members. We also have library where right now we're having language classes, but of course it functions like a normal library. So if you have a book that you want just to share and be shared by others, you put it there. And of course, everything is registered, but still is a completely open space. We have media lab where we usually have also digital workshop, barber, beauty salon. There are two different spaces for men and women. So right now, beauty salon is the women's space. That is super important in this context. We also have a storytelling lab. We have also a free shop, but of course, for the sake of this meeting, I will focus more on our working area. So for example, this is our sewing atelier. So as I was saying before, every working area has an expert, so a person from the community and or a supervisor, that is a team member, which they are just there because they have some skills, some technical skills on sewing, on wood, or on bicycle. But what we want to stress, especially in these areas, is that we provide materials. In this case, we provide fabric, we provide tools, for instance, in this case, sewing machines or needles, and we provide the space. And of course, if needed, some technical knowledge, but all the rest, it comes from the community. So this is our, why I wrote it here, make with and not for. This is really one of our values, because our idea is that a person can come here, maybe sometimes it happens they already have their own piece of fabric, or maybe they don't have the fabric, but they have a clear project in their mind. So they come here, we just offer the machine, and in case some support if needed. Otherwise, it's completely on them. And I think this is super important, because it's not the case where the supervisor or the expert is just making something just for the sake of completing, a dress or adjusting a bag or something like that. It's always making with the person. This is our wood workshop. It's just a representative image. And another of our values is we make, don't take. This is to clarify, because of course, once the project is done, the person can take it with themselves because it's there. But we want to stress this because, again, we value the whole process of building something. We don't value only the result. Of course, it's amazing when a person is also super skilled and can do something, but what we really value is the connection that you can create throughout the whole process of doing something, even just from, I don't know, choosing the material together. Like in the wood, we have different wood, different materials, of course, different machines. And in that moment, there is a moment of exchange in which maybe the person can share the idea, can share the project together with the expert. They can adjust something. And what we want to create, despite the final product, is a sense of community, a sense of safety for everyone, maybe deep relationship, and also a sense of hope. This is our bike workshop. First of all, I wanted to say the bike is very important in this context because unfortunately the camp is isolated from city or some more, let's say, vital services, and most of the people had to move with bicycles. So once the bike breaks, they cannot move anymore because the service is not the best. So this goes also beyond, is a extremely practical part. And that's why we also want to stress the fact that we consider people experts of their own life. So if a person comes, maybe they don't have the specific skills, but if they ask for something, we assume that they know what they need. So again, it's never trespassing this border. We are there just if needed to support. But again, also for bike, sometimes it can be difficult because also the person sometimes doesn't want to spend too much time there to build the whole connection. But right now, I would say that the role of Habibi and the perception of Habibi is well known also among the community. So they know if they come here is also not only to fix a bike because we are not just a mechanic or a shop, but is also to, again, create something that goes a bit above this whole main craft part and repairing part. And lastly, I think this is the core also and the purpose of this whole call. The idea that not only artistry and imagination should know no borders, but it's the idea that we really want to have in Habibi, meaning that through this craft part, we really would like to create deep and meaningful connection within the community. But again, when I say community, I also mean with the team and everyone that maybe just pass here for a couple of months. And we really would like to create this space where everyone is safe and can thrive through their own talent. And so it's a constant exchange through talent, idea, and project. And it's really a really rich environment, I would say. So this is it from Habibi, because there would be so many things to say, but the craft part, I would say, is this one. That's it from me.
Thank you, Sole.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for sharing this really inspiring initiative, in particular the model that you've all developed in this collaborative way and over time, and particularly all the efforts that are going into empowering people through the shared act of making. It's really great to learn about the principles that you outlined. I think this could also inspire those who are looking to maybe establish new makerspaces, such as our libraries, for example, that are involved in the project. But we really appreciate you joining. And because we have limited time today, we can save questions for at the end of the other presentations, if that's okay. I hope you can stick around. So to our audience, please save your questions and comments until later, or you can also pop them in the chat and I'll just keep a note. But thank you so much, Sole. We really appreciate your involvement. Thank you. A round of applause.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much. So on to our next speaker on the program. Nadia, you are there. Hi. So Nadia Everard represents La Table Ronde de l'Architecture from France. So this collective works to preserve traditional and vernacular architecture through hands-on building projects, volunteering, and the development, which I believe we'll hear about today, of an international training school. Their work asks us to think differently about heritage, not simply as something we conserve, but as something we actively should practice together. So through shared construction and learning and traditional knowledge sharing, this becomes a living resource for contemporary communities. So Nadia, I'll hand over the floor to you and you can share your slides. Otherwise, if you have any issues, let me know.
I'm going to thank you, Rachel, and thank you for the great previous presentation. It was very, very interesting and very important places. just I'm not very good with technology. Partager. Do you see my screen? Do you all see my screen?
Yes, we can see it. If you can maybe put it in a full screen, that might be
Hmm.
a bit neater, but it's also okay like this.
Affichage. That works?
Perfect.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So, hello everyone, and thank you very much for the invitation. We are in the middle of one of our summer school in Alsace, so it's based in France, in a very beautiful region at the border with Germany. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about our association, how we've been created, and what we are aiming to become. So we were first based in Belgium, in Brussels, for a few years, and then in Bruges, in Flanders, a fantastic city, beautiful city. Our association was created to defend and protect, but also to promote and teach traditional architecture. It's very important. So my training is in architecture. Was trained in Brussels and in London. And I was a bit frustrated during my study as I saw that there was no real input from the teacher into, let's say, heritage, natural materials, ancestral techniques, and everything that goes around that, of course, human. So also related to craft. So I think I was quite sad during my studies in architecture, and that's the case for many students still now. So when I finished with a few people in Brussels, we start an association to defend traditional architecture. It's an architecture which is handmade, based on logic, on reason. So it's a functional architecture, using local materials, making sure it fits for the climate, but also if that it's in harmony with what existed and with, the nature around. That it's not shocking and that it will also be durable, so that it will last for not just few decades as the architecture that's built today is, but for generations and past the centuries. So the association was first based in Brussels. We were mostly doing activism. We were very, very, very good at that. The media, they really liked us. And at some point, we also understood that this was maybe not the best way if we wanted to have a real impact. So I was trained as a modernist architect at university because that was the way the teaching is. But then I made lots of training aside of this in traditional architecture, in classical, in vernacular, and then I also trained myself just with craftsmen. So that's the way a lot of students, they still do it today if they want to become traditional architect. So if they want to practice classical vernacular construction, exactly the way we were building in the past, using the same logic. So let's say before the 1930s. So before let's say the modernist ideology, but also the use of industrial material. So that association based first in Brussels, which was mostly doing activism, so trying to protect buildings that were going to be demolished, held communities, so neighborhoods in Brussels, to make sure that their identity will be kept, but also that it will not destroy their all their culture and also their way of living. So we were helping them by drawing counter proposal for that was volunteer. So many architects started to draw for them. And at some point, we saw that there was the big issue is that there is not enough architects, neither craftsmen, trained to build in the traditional way. So that's the main problem. So then I started in 2019. I did the first kind of summer school with few students who asked me if I can teach them how to design in a traditional way, how to understand traditional building. So it's not only about restoration. Of course, it's much better to use what we have if it's of good condition, and it's much more ecological. But we can also build things that are durable, exactly the way our ancestors were doing. And this depends on, each local tradition. So if I will build in Rwanda, it's going to be very different from what I'm going to do here in Alsace. And this is very important for us. It's not just a question of aesthetic. It's just a question of building materials logic and, also to keep the tradition alive. So it's the whole culture of the people. So then we moved from Brussels to Bruges to found a place to create a summer school, so trainings, short-term trainings for 2 months, where we could train students. When I say students, the participants we have are between 16 and the oldest we had was 65. So all kind of people, but mostly students in architecture and architects. And then we have lots of historian or students in history, craftsmen or apprentice. So let's say people which are curious and they want to build that way, or they want to practice that way, or they have a project for creating a school, an association, an office. So, that's how we select them. So then we moved to Bruges and we create a few trainings, and that picture was taken in 2024 with the students of that year, the teacher, and also a part of the network in which we are a part, which is called INBO. So it's the International Network for Traditional Building, Architecture and Urbanism, based in London with 49 chapters around the world, which also, like us, defend and teach traditional architecture, construction and urbanism. So a very good team. It's a big family, and each year we meet new students. Those summer school that really change our life, and then we keep in contact with them. So we help them to find a job. We help them to continue to study, from abroad. We help them to find apprenticeship or to found their own office. So it's really a very strong and there is lots of solidarity within that community. So that's one of our students doing measure drawing. That is very important within the association. To build well, you need to observe well the buildings and make sure that everything you draw has a reason, and then it will be beautiful. So if it's that's the real functionality of architecture. If the things fits well with the right materials, with the right climate, then everything will last for sure and for a very long time. So we do a measure drawing. So we draw to scale on very large paper, and those drawings they help us to design new things. So aside from the summer school, and then I will talk a little bit more about the trainings, we write a lot. So we have, on our website, we have in French and in English, lots of essays about, they are related to architecture often, about craft a lot, and they kind of are the philosophy of our association. So really don't hesitate to look at them. And there is lots of also other documentation on that website, which is all free. So those are some pictures of our students doing classes. So on the left side, you have geometry classes, teachers by a plaster craftsman, a plaster master. It's a Gothic geometry classes. So depending on the place we are teaching, we also teach different things, of course. The students, they are coming from all around the world. So someone coming from Bangladesh, of course, will not do Gothic architecture back in Bangladesh, but we are teaching them a method, principles that they can use back, in their country. So it's really a method. And then on the right side, you have another course which was on shadows and light and texture. So how do you, with drawing, show the construction methods? So that's one summer school that we do in Conques. So we have a summer school in Bruges every 2 years now. It used to be every year, but now because we are based in France, we decide to do it every 2 years. And then we have a summer school in Conques, so that's south of France, where we study the vernacular of Conques, which is, I think, one of the most beautiful village in France. So again, we study the constructions. That's also in Bruges. So the stone construction, the wood construction, we try to understand why the craftsmen have worked that way, so that the link between the hands and the head is there, because there is a big division. It's been like more than 100 years that the craftsmen and the architects are not working together. So that's really something part of our association philosophy. We want the craftsman to be respected by the architect and in the other way. The teacher in the school, they are both craftsmen and architects, and we have also historian. That's a craft workshop, so that was to design a pointed arch, what we call an arc en lancette in French, with blue stone. So that stone you can find only in Belgium. You have with the same vein, it goes also to Ireland. Now, with other appellation, it's also sold by other country, but I would say the bluestone from Belgium is really the best quality. So yes, the students, they will get an idea of, the budgets. How do you cost, what's the cost of a traditional building, how you design it and how you build it, and how structurally then how it works. So then they will respect even more the craftsmen because they know the time and the energy they have to put in it. We use only, I would say, mostly hand tools, and sometimes, just for like to make it, more easy, like to protect our back, we will use some mechanical tools, but we never use 3D printer or, any tools that will do everything for us. We want to learn the process and to show also the imperfection and the hands of the human. So that's another workshop we do with iron. So that's with a blacksmith in Belgium. So every year with few students, they learn with one of the best blacksmiths of Europe. Those are other courses in Bruges where they do measure drawing. So they measure the structure and then they will draw. On the right side, that's a student project. So that's a completely a new construction for Bruges that is designed by a Mexican student. And that's really what we are against, in the association. So what we are really, working against is all this obsolete architecture. Sorry, it's written in French. So, you build something, but it's also already obsolete, and it has a very short lifespan. It's a mountain of waste with toxic materials, and they hid it. The construction sector will hide everything. So most of the people, they don't know that they are building in toxic boxes. So it has an impact on your health. It has a huge impact on the well-being of people, but also on the world, because ecologically, most of those materials are not, you cannot recycle them because they are glued together. So they will finish in other countries, some often like, our country. I mean, some of the country in Europe, they will sell their waste, send their waste in other country and pollute those country. It will end, in the river or in the ground. So that's really what we are fighting against, is building something that will last, but with local materials, natural materials, to make sure we are building healthy community again. So one of the big problem we had is a few years ago, we had lots of students asking for like a permanent place to be to learn traditional architecture, because there is no school in the world except for one in the US that teach traditional architecture as a diploma. But that's very difficult to create in terms of finance, how to finance such a place, how to get certification. So we are not at that stage yet. We have the space, the farm. We bought a farm, so that's that was the most difficult part. And now it's more like a training center. So we organize summer school, craft workshop, volunteer construction sites, and the idea is that with time, that place will be filled with students. We will be able to help a lot of them all around the world, and we will be able to build much better architecture. So those are some students from our previous summer school and workshop. So that's when we organized the first Alsatian architecture summer school in 2024. So we do visit craftsman workshop. As I said, we will do as much drawing as craft. So it's very important that it's balanced. We do practical and theoretical all together. So the farm that I just talked about is based in Westhoffen. I don't know if you see my hand move.
Yes, we see it. Thanks.
So Westhoffen is north of Alsace in France. And it's close to Germany, very close to Belgium and Luxembourg, but also from Switzerland. So it's kind of Central Europe. It's a very rich region in terms of architecture, and it's not folkloric. It's really alive. People, they are building that way today. They live with it. Craft is something that's part of their life, and there is a real let's say, love for vernacular architecture in Alsace. And I think it's one of the last region in Europe, one of the last big region in Europe where this is still the case. We still have lots of craftsmen. We still have lots of production of natural material, also extraction, so quarry, pink sandstones quarry, but also lime factory. We will have tile factories, and working in a traditional way, or let's say a semi-industrial way. So not everything is automatized. The hands of the people are still, on the materials. And using also local materials. So if there is a tile factory, of course, the logic would be to use the earth, which is just next to the tile. So, but that's not everywhere still in Europe today with the factories that are completely automatized. So Westhofen, so we are based in the village of Westhofen, so that's north of Alsace. It's a village of 1,700 inhabitants. A very a rich village in terms of vernacular architecture. It's not isolated, so and there is it's very lively as a village. So you have shops, inhabitants that are very active with lots of association, and a very interesting history also. And we are based in. So you see that point here. We are based in a farm that is dating from the end of the 17th century. So mostly built out of pink sandstone masonry, so stone, and wooden truss structure that's are above, of course, to protect the wood from the rising water, so from the water, so that the wood will not be degraded. It's a traditional farm with like a square. It used to be a livestock farm. Like because that village had a lot of those kind of farm that you can see elsewhere in the plan, and then in the past 30 years it was transformed in accommodation and then sold to us to be transformed in the next years in a school of architecture and craft. So we will teach both architecture students how to do architecture, so through theoretical course, so drawing course and craft course. So there will be stone carving workshop, carpentry workshop, painting workshop with natural materials, masonry workshop, a ceramic workshop, and then a very large library of construction architecture and urbanism book related to traditional architecture in Alsace, but also elsewhere in the world. There will be drawing rooms, and that's kind of the past month, the meetings we had with members, so discussing of what will be inside each building, how we are going to transform it, because the buildings have been polluted a lot through the last decades. So we want to come back to the original form and then restore it and transform it into a school. Sorry. So that's me. So one of the big steps is to measure everything, so we say in English, measure drawing. So we measure everything to make sure that the transformation is in line with the current architecture. So that's the courtyard. What you have here will be transformed into the student house. That's going to be the painting workshop. Up there is a fantastic attic with a beautiful wooden truss. It will become the library and study room. And then a stone carving workshop that is covered. Those are like some of the workshops we are organizing right now. So next week there will be 4 workshops. So stone engraving, stone carving, carpentry, and traditional building technique like wattle and daub. And all those workshops, like the other workshop we organized through the year, the idea is that the students, they learn, of course, they come to learn, so they have theoretical course, but when they practice on the school project. So it helps us also, it helps the association to make the projects evolve. So that's some of the attics, so you can see some of the states. it looks bad, but it's really a fantastic place. All the structure are in oak, so this would never be possible to build this today, or with a very big budget. So it's oak trees everywhere, and the infill is with stone, but we are going to do the infill also with water and daub, so with straw and earth. You have loggia. It's a fantastic architecture, and we also have a bridge between two buildings. That's the team that came to help us during the first weekend we arrived, so in February, to dismantle many toxic materials that were inside those buildings, and we had to get rid of. And I know that they will not be recycled, so it's always a problem. Is when you are transforming a building, you have to think about what you want to get rid of, if really it create a problem for the structure. But at the same time, you know that when you get rid of something, some of the thing like metal and, bricks, or, if they're separate, it can be recycled. But when you have insulation glued with plaster, nothing can be done. So yeah, there is big decision to be taken if you want to have like a low and environmental impact. Voila, I hope it was not too long, I'm sorry. So that's a view from the bridge looking south on the courtyard, and we have a bell to bring the students for communal dinner. And also, in case you are based in France or in the surrounding country, do not hesitate to come and say hello on the 19th, so which is Sunday. We are having an open day with the students showing the project for the school, and also craftsmen showing some work.
I wish I could make it. Thank you so much, Nadia. What a
With pleasure.
fascinating project. We really appreciate you sharing with us today, especially considering how busy you all are during your summer school. And this, you shared a lot of perspectives. I think it's quite a different area of knowledge for many joining today. So it was you shared a lot that really inspired me, and I hope others. And it was great to see how you're developing a permanent space in such a historical environment. So for our audience, I'm going to share in the chat. There's a great YouTube video about the development of the school in Westhoffen, where you can really see the space. So I'll put that in the chat if anyone wants to take a look at that. And please also share any questions you have for Nadia. We are running very short on time now. I was afraid to interrupt you. I'm sorry. But we will make sure that we have enough time for our next speaker. So I'm going to not delay any further. Thank you again, Nadia. Our final speaker is Gabia Stashenskaite. Sorry, I did practice. Gabia Stashenskaite, who is the events curator and coordinator from SODAS 2123, which is in Vilnius, Lithuania. So SODAS is a self-governed cultural center, which is bringing together more than 60 creative studios and workshops. And by sharing spaces and tools and resources, they're demonstrating how collaborative infrastructure and adaptive reuse can support thriving creative ecosystems. And their experience really offers valuable insights into how shared resources and collective governance can create collaboration and can strengthen local resilience while supporting circular approaches to making, which is very key to the MakerTech project. So welcome, Gabia.
Hello.
I'll hand over to you to share your screen.
Yeah, so I'm quickly waving to everyone. Nice to meet you. And now I'm sharing my screen with you. Just give me 1 second. Yes. You can see it, right?
See, it looks good. Thank you.
So thank you for introducing me, Rachel, and thank you for coming across SODAS 2123 and inviting me to represent our institution and to talk about how we are managing a self-governed cultural commons. So I will start with a short introduction. As it was mentioned already, SODAS 2123 is a self-governed community-based space operated and curated by Lithuanian Interdisciplinary Artists Association, and we're based in Vilnius, Lithuania. It was opened in 2020, so 6 years ago, and now unites tens of creators and researchers of different fields with practices based on experimentation, developing of unexpected formats, responding to latest cultural, social, geopolitical, ecological issues, This is our building. So 60 years ago, Vilnius municipality had an open call because this building is owned by Vilnius municipality, but it's a former school and the building was abandoned. So they invited to share ideas what could be done with this building, and Lithuanian Interdisciplinary Artists Association gave their idea of creating this cultural venue where different art fields could unite, let's say, and where different artists and cultural organizations would have a possibility to rent space and studios for affordable price, as there was a problem in Vilnius regarding this thing. I mean, it still is actually. And and as it was mentioned, now we have already over 60 artist studios that include rehearsing studios for music bands, design studios, film, visual arts, theater organizations, exhibition spaces, event spaces. We have a cafe slash bar, outdoor garden space. And so SODAS 2123 provides space for a variety of art and cultural disciplines, and each resident of the complex is open for sharing, learning, and craftsmanship. And our institution is operated according to principles of exchange economics, upcycling of materials, objects, upcycling of ideas and memory, touching on some most important aspects of our current cultural, social, economic, political, ecological context, locally as well as globally. And we aim to become a sustainable and unique example of how a focused community of local and professional culture can further enhance local uniqueness. And I think we actually already are this kind of example. And so how this exchange economy works that we have. So first of all, we organize a lot of events and workshops at SODAS. So the fact that in one place we have human resources that represent different fields, so that means that we don't need to look somewhere further. If, for example, for the event we need a sound person or someone who could give an interesting DIY workshop for kids, we already have everyone based in one place. There are sound engineers or different artists. So it makes way easier to organize different events, and also not only with human resources, but also if we need any kind of tools, for example, some kind of sound system, we can just go to the studio of one sound engineer and take it. Or if we're talking about any other kind of tool, it's very easy because we don't need to transport it somewhere, because there are a lot of different things already in SODAS itself. And also we have one of our main programs, event programs, is Open SODAS. So this program is based on this possibility for visitors to go around different studios of artists and cultural organizations. And we have this tour, and also we have a program that is based on our residents' activities. So, for example, if there's a concert, and most of the time we have a band that is already in SODAS, and they can have a concert. Or if we planning to have a film screening, then we screening a movie by the film creator that is also has studio in SODAS. So we giving a possibility to artists to show themselves, their artwork. And if they want to organize their own events, we're always helping with our human resources. In SODAS team, we have 9 people in total. And also we giving our event spaces for with a really big discount, or even for free. So that's how everything circulates. And I would also like to mention regarding this resource, talking about this resources topic, a few more other event programs, or like not really programs, but projects that we have in Sawdust. So one of them is Kids Playground Project. So some of the architects and students of architecture that are based in Sawdust, last year they created the first playground for kids. That was clay playground. We trying in this project of children playgrounds to use material, like eco-friendly materials, and find some not plastic and toxic ways to create playgrounds for kids. Also in Sawdust we have a very nice object called Oven Pavilion, where with different events we're trying to merge food and art together. So we can see food as also cooking of food, cooking the food as a craft too. So there's the whole event program dedicated exactly to this. And also we're organizing local markets during winter and spring. So the residents that have studios in Sawdust, they can sell their artwork, or also like people from outside, they can join. And we just really like the things that are handmade. And yeah, in general, what I would also like to mention is our architecture. So you can see, like we like to use and reuse materials. So you can see the benches that our architects made out of wood. Also here are the tables, and we're just using some bricks to create these tables. And the one particular example that I would like to mention is that while designing our public space, together with our architects Ona Lozuraitytė and Petras Išora, we paid special attention to the valuables already produced within the city to create new stories of Vilnius, collective cultural maps, and personal psychogeographically charged social spaces for the city dweller and visitors alike. So there used to be this cultural object called the Trade Union Mansion in Vilnius. Here you can see it in the very corner. So this trade union mansion, there were registered at least 73 unions and associations, public organizations, collectives, fellowships, clubs, businesses, agencies, and funds. However, that simply does not contain all the cultural activities that were generated inside these walls, such as significant cultural events, cult concerts, Vilnius Jazz Festival, gatherings of all kind of communities, a cinema, and also an alternative scene. So there was a decision of the municipality to demolish this building, which had a very important cultural role in our city. And during the demolition of the mansion in 2019, we have asked to have some of these elements of this mansion that identify our city, such as the pillars, stairs, and socle, in order to transfer some of that energy to our new public space that we created. And the pillars in Sawdust 213 have become urban furniture with a localized charge. So basically, from this very vertical hierarchy, let's say, that was kind of represented by this trade union mansion, we created horizontal benches that also kind of represents our Sawdust 213 values, and it shows basically that everybody's welcome here just to sit and enjoy what we are doing in our cultural venue. So I didn't have much time, and I have plenty of things to still share, but thank you for your attention, and you can always find us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and if not now you have questions, I'm very glad to receive them by email. You can make it just a screenshot of our contacts, and that's it. Thank you again for your attention.
Thank you, Gabi. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry that we don't have much time left because we really wanted this to be a discussion, but let's just see how we go in the next 5 minutes. So just a big thank you on behalf of all of us to all three speakers for sharing really thoughtful and inspiring examples today. And although all of your projects are very different in context, they're very similar themes that have emerged. The importance of trust, shared space, collaboration, care, learning, and especially the ways that making creates communities rather than simply serving them. So I'd just like to now open up to any questions from our audience. Please feel free to just unmute yourself or raise your hand. You can also pop questions in the chat. It would also be nice if you would like to ask something, maybe you can turn your camera on. Okay, no pressing questions at this moment. So maybe I can ask a question if that's okay. It's quite a big question, and whoever feels from our speakers would like to answer, please feel free. But I'm curious, if you could change one thing in terms of either policy or funding or public attitudes that could really strengthen community-based making across Europe, what would that be? Or I guess it's really asking, what is the biggest challenge that you've been facing in the development of the communities and the spaces that you're building? I gave those three examples of policy, funding, or public attitudes, but maybe there's another thing that I haven't mentioned there. So if either three of you would like to jump in, please feel free.
I can, yeah.
Thanks, Nadia.
Yes, I think like well, sometimes the project, develop itself, kind of naturally. I think in our case that was how it works. So we had lots of help of volunteers. So we were not really looking for funding at that point. Because volunteers were enough, and the association way of working is it's not for profit, and it's still the case. So we didn't had that. We were not looking for any funding, and we didn't really had any problem. I think it's more like sometimes when you start something and you're very energetic about it, sometimes you don't take the right decision. So we might have done a bit too much activism, and maybe we were like maybe a bit too critique about the way the construction sector works now. The problem is that it's not just a question of aesthetic or a problem just about the architect or the architecture. It's the system, which is completely different from the day where craftsmen were everywhere. Like in each family, you had a carpenter and you had a stonemason. So we cannot change the world, we can do, things bit by bit. And I think when we understood that, we kind of calmed down, and we understood that we can teach what we can to as many students as we can. There is like a huge amount of young people who want to learn craft. They want to do traditional architecture. So that's a very good thing. We don't have to look for them because we select, for example, for every summer school, 18 students, and we have more than 100 applications per summer school. So we are not looking for students. We really see that there is a big a big demand, and it's not only in architecture. You can see that there is a fashion. It's been years that natural medicine is something that more and more people are interested in. Natural, organic agriculture, but it needs to be affordable for everyone. That's the next step, that all those things are affordable and also accessible in terms of information, so that people know also to do that. So something we do, for example, is also not only training the professionals, so architect, craftsmen, but we also open lots of our trainings, and that's new, to ordinary people who want to build their house, who want to restore their house. So they have that possibility of doing the work themselves, if they don't have the money. So that's one thing. And about funding, since now we are looking for, we start like a permanent school. It's not, for now it's more a training center. It's not yet really permanent as a school because, we are accepting students for a few weeks or a month. We are going to start looking for European funding, regional funding, to transform the buildings into a school. And so, but we also see that in this region, so in Alsace, the people are very enthusiastic. So at all the levels, so national, European, and regional, and also local, like, really the municipality. So we haven't really had like any problem right now. Maybe it will come, with month, when we're gonna start like writing, all those files that we have to send to each partner and see if it works. But right now it's really positive, like the way crafts, and traditional architecture is being loved by people, and that helps a lot. And hopefully it will continue.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know if Sole or Gabia would also like to respond to this question. It might be interesting to hear from the perspective of Habibi.Works in particular. If you have anything to add, I know, sorry, we're running a bit over, but
No, yeah, I mean, I could take a whole hour, so I will try to be very brief because unfortunately we are on the opposite side of Nadia, what she said. Because I think the problem here is still the perspective of all this kind of job, because of course we do not accept some certain funds, but most of the time we are not receiving them because they don't want to invest in this kind of projects most of the time because we are working with people on the move. So I mean, again, if I could change, I mean, I would have to change so many things on a high level, of course. So I mean, now we are also happy with our structure for foundings, and we also are based with thanks to amazing volunteers that there is a huge turnover here. So that's why we keep this space very alive, but unfortunately we are on the opposite, literally on the opposite side. So people probably are not happy here. And I think one thing that I really wish it could change is the perception that also the Greek community have about this space. I would really love to have more Greek engagement here, So that's the only thing. But again, I could speak even more. I will just stop here. Otherwise, I don't know. We don't have enough time. But thank you.
thank you, Sole. And Gabia, is there anything you'd like to add?
Maybe as we're running out of time, I can answer the question that I see on chat. What
please.
is our business model to sustain our space? So I don't know if much business can happen in culture, but how we're sustaining ourselves. So basically, we're writing projects each year, and we trying to receive funding from two main resources, which are Vilnius municipality and also Lithuanian Council of Culture. Now we are very lucky because we've got a strategic funding, so it means that for 3 years, for all of our projects that we have, and we have at least 5 or 6 different projects, we receiving funding from Lithuanian Council of Culture, and that is very relieving because we don't have to write every time each year for each project something to ask for money. So that's a nice thing. But also we're renting our spaces for others to do their events. So that's also a thing from where we receive money. And talking about studios that we have for artists, they are paying a rent, but of course it's very, very symbolic, and we're sharing utilities with all the people who are based in sawdust 213. So basically that's it. Actually, of course we're trying to cooperate with international networks or projects, but it's not that common to get funding from not our country but from somewhere else.
Thank you for sharing that. Unfortunately, I think we have to end it there. I'm sorry that we didn't have enough time for more discussion, but thank you to everybody for joining us today, our audience, and especially to our speakers for generously sharing all of your experiences and the amazing work that you're all doing. If you would like, please feel free to share your websites or contacts in the chat if anybody wants to reach out to them. But yes, thank you for joining, and we hope to see you all in our next MakerTech community call, and wishing you all a nice day further. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Bye.